This is Carla Abear with Bella Vista Wreaths, and in this video you're going to see how I created this beautiful St. Patrick's Day wreath for the front door. Stay tuned. It's a crafting extravaganza. Join me and a couple of gal pals as we each tackle on our own wreath making session. I'm making the St. Patrick's Day wreath. My friend Amy's making a St. Patrick's Day wreath, and off camera you can also see Madeline doing a couple of different projects. So right now I'm cutting up my deco mesh into 20 to 25 inch strips. These are 3 different varieties of mesh, and they are 10.5 inches wide. So in Amy's wreath, she's incorporating 21-inch deco mesh, and so I just showed her really quickly how I roll my 21-inch mesh and incorporate it into the wreath by folding in and rolling either side into a long tube and then folding it over and then twisting it into the mesh form. So what I do is, so you've got the 2 rings, the outer and then the inner, and I just spread them out, and that's it. I separate them, fluff them up, kind of turn them into little V's, and then every 3 to 4 pine time sections, I just shove the mesh in there. That's it. All right. Now that we have the evergreen stuffed with mesh, it's time to give it a little bit of a makeover. So there are 2 different ways you can have your mesh frame. You can have it in a standardized circle form, or you can oval it out. And what I'm doing is just pressing the wire frame against my body and changing the form to look more like an oval rather than a circle. And to secure that, I just grab a few zip ties, connect maybe 3 or 4 of them together, or if you have a really long zip tie or a few different pipe cleaners, that would also work as well. And with the zip ties and pipe cleaners, I secure that around the wire rings. So to illustrate the difference, I wanted to side by side see the difference between a more oval shaped versus with Amy, she has a more circular wreath form. Both of them gorgeous, just different methodologies, and you can use them for different occasions. All right, now it's time to prep the signs. I'm removing the twine that's on the back of this wooden sign, and I'm going to be replacing that with a few cable tie mounts along with some pipe cleaners. And I typically would have used on a wooden sign pipe cleaners with a staple gun, but I ran out of staples, so I decided to use the cable mount because I had plenty of super glue and hot glue. So for the cable mount squares, you can get those pretty much at any online retail store like Amazon. You can get them from Deco Exchange, probably even at the local hardware store if you wanted to go check out, Home Depot or Ace. The other item you're going to need is some sort of industrial strength super glue, kind of like E6000, or maybe even like Gorilla Hot Glue or Gorilla Super Glue. I just use E6000. So you dab a little bit of the E6000, and then you also add in some hot glue on top of that. I'm doing that, I think, off camera right now. and realizing that my hot glue gun probably isn't hot enough, but I'm just making it work. And now I'm just adding the rest of the cable mount squares to my sign. And then I'm, with the glue gun, going along the outsides as well, just for a little extra security there. And just a moment, we're gonna have some special visitors come and visit us. Oh, those silly girls. They decided to put chalk all over their faces. Like blue Smurfs. It's time to make a big juicy bow for the top of my wreath. And I typically like to use around a 20-inch tail for my ribbon. And I'm doing a bow in my hand. Amy in the background is using a bow maker. I love both methodologies, just depends on the look that you're going for. So what I'm doing here, I don't know what I'm doing actually. Pointing out different ribbon styles to Amy, I think. I don't know. I removed all the volume. Stay with me, folks. Okay, like I said, I've got a 20-inch tail, and I just cinch it in my left hand to where I want the center of the bow to be, scrunch it together. I think I'm telling Amy that the bow is around, or the loop is around 8 inches, I believe. So then I cinch it in my left hand, I twisted the ribbon, and then I looped it backwards, if you will. And I'm just making sure that my ribbon loops are the same size, just by comparing them side by side, kind of like bunny ears, if you will. And I don't think I end up cutting the secondary tail, because usually with that second tail, I like to tuck it directly into the wreath. So I'm just throwing it under the table just so it's out of the way. I'm kind of showing Amy the concept, if you will, of how I plan to attach it to the wreath. Yep, I'm going to put the bow near the top and have the tails cascading and tucked into the wreath later on. And now it's time just to layer. So the bottom layer was a 4-inch ribbon, and now with each additional ribbon, they tend to get smaller in size. So this is a 2.5-inch shamrock ribbon that I'm layering on top of the 4-inch ribbon and doing the same methodology. I've got my loop just slightly smaller than the previous one. I'm twisting it in my hand so that the decorative side of the ribbon faces up, and then I do my secondary loop, and then the longer ribbon is going to cascade onto the floor so that I can incorporate it into the design later on. Yep, and there I go, I toss it. And we're going to just rinse and repeat the last layers. There's a couple different ways you can secure your ribbon. You can use either a zip tie like I'm doing here, or just use a pipe cleaner. I've definitely done that in a lot of different bows of mine. This one's a little bit bigger since I've got a 4-inch ribbon and I've got a thicker designer ribbon, a couple designer ribbons in this bow. So just for extra security, I am going to use the zip tie. However, I am going to use a pipe cleaner, and I'm going to use that in between the zip tie and the ribbon material, and have that be what I'm using to attach to the actual wire frame of my wreath base, of the evergreen Christmas base, if you will. I say Christmas base, but it's just a pine needle evergreen base. that I got on Christmas clearance. And I'm just clipping off the excess of the zip tie. All right, now it's time to attach those signs. And party foul on my part, because I should have moved the wreath out of the way so you could see what I'm actually doing, but I'll just try to quickly describe it. I'm using the pipe cleaners. Doesn't matter what color they are. I happen to have green, so I used it. No one's going to see it, so it's not a big deal what the color of the pipe cleaner is. So I am attaching and giving it 1 or 2 twists on the 4 corners, and then I'm deciding where I want to place it. And I think I went back and forth on this a lot of different times, so I won't spare you the details of that, and I'll fast forward through this part. But basically, you're going to take the pipe cleaners, run them through the mesh, and then find a wire wreath, the wire framing, and then attach it to your frame on the back side. I'll go ahead and fast forward to this next part. This next part is where I struggle the most when it comes to doing mesh wreaths, and it's the placement of my big bow. I always struggle as far as where I'm going to be putting it, but ultimately I ended up putting it on the top left corner, and had some ribbons cascading down the left. I'm just going to run the pipe cleaners through that mesh to the back, cinch it, and twist it off. The next part of this series is really all about adding ribbon to the deco mesh. The wreath form. And you're just going to make little baby bows. I would say I call them baby bows because they don't have another main, another main like 4-inch ribbon in it. But I've got a combination of 2.5 and 1.5 inch ribbons, and I'm adding those throughout the design, and making sure that I have some balance. So for example, I've got that tan and gold shamrock on the upper right hand corner. I have that in the bow on the bottom left hand corner. I've got some of the black and white harlequin ribbon in the bottom right. I put some tails on the top left. That's what I mean by having balance in your design. Don't worry about those tails all. The shamrock tails, I'm going to fix all that and trim those up a little bit. But I can't have a vision with those tails. I always mess up with my ribbons. All right, and then this next part, I just start to put in additional, I'm cutting the tails, and now I'm going to cut up the greenery that I'm going to use to put into my design. And I use a combination of seeded eucalyptus seeded eucalyptus leaves, I think boxwood, and then it's some other filler greenery as well. Once you add that greenery, it really adds another layer of texture and depth to your design. God, I wish it went this quick in real life. I do tend to go and make sure that I'm covering all the pine tines so no one can see that. And I'm adding in some glittered picks as well. And then, what is Lily doing? I never noticed this before. The last thing I add into the design are going to be a few lime green coordinating ornaments. Shatterproof. Make sure that they're shatterproof. All right, y'all, and that's it. This is the St. Patrick's Day wreath that I created. This has more neutrals in it, and I really love it. Thank you so much for watching. This is Carla Abear again with Bella Vista Wreaths. And please like, subscribe, and comment down below so I know what you think of the design I made. Thank you.